Hi, I'm 𝗫𝗿𝗵. I'm here today with Gary, one of our mortgage experts, and we're here today to discuss Let to Buy, which is a great tool for any investor to use who has a property which they currently live in and they're looking to let it out. So Gary, over to you. What is a Let to Buy mortgage?
Hi Nigel, yeah, a Let to Buy mortgage is when you basically rent out your existing residential home and you go on and basically move on to buying another property to live in, so a second residential. So yeah.
So how does that work in comparison to like a buy-to-let mortgage then, Gary?
So essentially what it means is it involves having two mortgages at the same time. So what you do is you convert your existing residential mortgage and you switch that over to a buy-to-let mortgage. So then you can basically let out your current property and then take out a standard residential mortgage on the new property that you're actually going to be buying and living in it. Now, the difference between a Let to Buy and a buy-to-let is when a buy-to-let is you're actually purchasing the property with the intent of buying just to rent that property out exclusively. Whereas with a Let to Buy, you've actually bought that house originally to live in as your residential, and circumstances have meant that you now have to possibly put it on a Let to Buy mortgage just so then you can move on to your next onward purchase and live in that your new current property.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a friend actually who owns a property, and they've gone through the same situation. So they had a property where it was really hot a couple of years ago, and their house has got it was really hot, and their house basically started developing some subsidence because of the hot summer. And so they decided, rather than try and sell the property, because there's always a big issue around subsidence and selling properties, and actually getting into those conversations with buyers and discussing price, that they'd actually just do a Let to Buy because the rental market's really strong at the moment. So obviously the difference, as I'd assume, Gary, is if you go to a Let to Buy, the underwriting is not as strong as a buy-to-let. So you're not getting a full valuer coming out. There's less underwriting in terms of income. Is it a lighter approach, would you say?
It is a little bit, yeah. They'll still do a bit underwriting, Nigel, making sure that's affordable, and they'll also obviously ask just as your normal standard mortgage application with regards to some lenders will, if you're doing the onward purchase, some lenders will actually assess it as a full mortgage application, pay slips, bank statements, stress test, making sure the rental income fits. Some lenders, what you can do is you just basically write to them, fill a little mini application form in, and basically say, my circumstances have changed, I need a consent, I need permission and consent to let this property out. And what some lenders will do, Nigel, is they'll basically let it out, like give you consent for maybe 1 year period, a 2 year period, without any underwriting, without any sort of sending people out to value the property, etc. What it might mean though is they may be on a fixed rate deal, and the lender might put that interest rate up by 1/4% or 0.5%, just because obviously there's a little bit of risk now because the client isn't living in the property and they're going to be renting it out. So the lender wants a little bit sort of back from that sort of potential risk.
So it's kind of like, if you've got your own residential home, it's the first easy option to effectively get into the rental market. You can go approach your current lender, see what they're going to ask, see if it's a relatively easy option. And if the numbers work, the underwriting work, and the process work, then yes, you can do that to begin your buy-to-let journey or Let to Buy journey.
And also, as long as there's equity in the property as well, Nigel, because a lot of lenders will still want, if it's just purely consent to let, then that's fine. But if it's a Let to Buy, where they're basically moving on to do the onward purchase of a residential, then there will be equity having to remain in the existing property as well. Similar to what a buy-to-let is with a 20-25% equity in the property. With the onward purchase, lenders will also want clients to put a potentially bigger deposit down, 10-15%, rather than sort of a lower deposit of potentially 5%.
Oh, so that's a great question. So in terms of Let to Buy, deposit required, and what, 20-25%, similar to buy-to-let?
Buy-to-let, yeah, Nigel, yeah. That's the equity in your property, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And in terms of borrowing, is that a similar rental calculation, or is it based on your own income, or is it a mixture?
Again, it's a bit of mixture, Nigel. So it'll be based on, depending what lender it is, it could be based on your income plus the rental income you're going to do. It could be based on just the rental income, as long as the rental income covers at a sort of potential stress test then that could be fine with the lender as well, Nigel.
All right, okay, cool. And is there any other criteria you need to know about doing a let to buy? So is there anything else you need to think about in terms of your own personal circumstances? Or
circumstances, again, good credit history, income, deposit. You'll have to complete on both transactions at the same time. So if you're going to do a let to buy with the onward purchase, the lenders will make it compulsory that you basically complete on the same day. So you haven't got an overlap of sort of letting this out, then you sort of live in either like in another rented property or with friends or family. That onward purchase has got to complete simultaneously. So then you basically, that's let out and you've moved straight into your residential property.
Do they give you a grace period, or is it definitely?
It's got to be completed simultaneously.
Okay. And so do you think do we generally think it's a good idea to go down the let to buy market or let to buy idea?
Yeah, so a let to buy can be a good idea. And a couple of examples, people could be stuck in that property. It could be a bit of a down market. It could potentially have a little bit of negative equity. They kind of shift the property and they want to move on. They've outgrown that property and they need to basically move on to their next property, and they're stuck. They don't want to sell it at sort of discounted price, anything. So as long as they get either consent to let off the lender or it fits for the let to buy criteria, then it is a good idea to basically let it out, because realistically they're going to be getting the income off that property, pays for the mortgage, and they can move on to the next property which they want to be living in.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had other friends actually been through the let to buy route as well, and I think firstly it's a really good an easy opportunity into like renting property, because it's approach current lender. It's it's an easier option than going down the buy to let route, or it can be. And secondly, obviously we're in a rising, a really quickly rising market at the moment in terms of rent and value. So if you are thinking, well, we are looking to maybe increase our asset base by keeping our current home and actually purchasing a second home to live in, then it might be a great opportunity to do that, because we're in a market which is rising really strongly, rents going up really strongly. We've just seen that minimum wages are going up by 6.5%. Wages are increasing quickly. So there's a hell of a lot of inflationary pressure. So the great thing when there is inflation is your debt stands still, so you take on more debt and you purchase more assets, but those assets will increase without inflation. So it might be a great opportunity to do that. So in terms of let to buys, are there any, what alternatives would you suggest if that wasn't the route to
let to buy is basically either sell a property and get rid of it, or what we're talking about earlier, the consent to let, where you basically go to your lender and just say, look, I want to move out. It might mean that they're not actually going to be buying an onward purchase. They might just basically want to move. They cannot sell the property. They might be relocating, Nigel, to another part of the country. They might have a job relocation or met a partner or something and just want to basically live away for a year or two, with the intention of maybe returning back to the property. So then this is ideal for clients like that, because then they just basically ring the lender up. There's no really much underwriting to do. It's just basically making sure they're working. If they're relocating, they're going to be working and they're going to have an income to basically cover any mortgage, any void periods or anything. No real underwriting, no valuations, no equity having to be like sort of left in the property. Possibly if somebody's a little bit stuck in their negative equity, then a consent to let could be an ideal alternative for them, short term, between a period of 1 or 2 years, on the certain basis that they're not going to be buying a residential, they're going to be moving away, or they're going to be moving in with a partner or family, and they don't want to basically lose too much money on that existing property that they've got, and give it a chance to try and get the property back to either what they bought it for, or making maybe a little bit of profit, Nigel.
Yeah, I mean, I think with this, and this is what we're trying to offer to people hopefully listening to this is another tool in your armory. If you're wanting to get into renting property, buy to let, this is another tool you can use. And like we always say, if you are interested in let to buy or buy to let, or in getting involved in the rental market, Gary's here to offer you some brilliant advice around mortgages and what we can do for you. So like I say, if you are looking for that advice, contact us at landlords@nguhomelettings.com, and Gary will be able to help you. So thanks.